The Crusade was ultimately the 6th serial of the 2nd season of Doctor Who, a batch of stories that saw many ambitious highs and popular moments for and at this time of the show, whether it be the Dalek invasion of Earth or the Web Planet. It also ended up continuing the idea of having educational historical adventures mixed with science fiction stories, although only 2 of the stories here were pure historicals, not to mention that there were some very conceptual moments like the contemporary set Planet of Giants and the milestone adventure of the Time Meddler. The main story here today very much sits at the centre of this mixture, but I would also say that it is a bit of an oddity of a story. The BBC for some time had retained a copy of episode 3, The Wheel of Fortune, which made it the only part of this adventure to exist in the archives until 1999, when a very damaged print of the premiere chapter The Lion was returned from New Zealand. Later this year, a VHS set was released comprising of postcards, a keychain, a CD comprising of the recorded soundtracks of the still missing 2nd and 4th components, along with a tape containing the 2 surviving episodes of the story, summaries of the 2 missing parts by William Russell, and the complete serial of the Space Museum. This adventure has not had a standalone DVD release as of the release of this video, with many wondering why not, as it seemed like it could have been an easy contender for animated treatment. Although the 2 surviving episodes were released on the Lost in Time DVD set from 2004, along with the previously issued summations by William Russell and the audio tracks for the other half of the story that is missing. To me then is an often neglected fact that the Crusade has been released on DVD in full before, you just have to get it in this box set. Every single classic Doctor Who story that was possible to be released on DVD got its own issue from 1999 up until 2013, although some you could only get in box sets like the New Beginnings Master themed set. Subsequently, whole seasons got remastered in high definition and packaged in deluxe box sets with the recent Blu-ray range titled Doctor Who The Collection. In late 2022, Season 2 was released as a part of this series of releases, making The Crusade the only story, currently, to have been released as a part of this but not to have had its own DVD. On the respective disc in the set, you have 3 options for viewing. You can just watch the original surviving episodes, then with the VHS links or new full photographic reconstructions paired with the video represented chapters. No animation was commissioned for this box set, and it is feasible and reasonable to think that such a thing would not be possible with what budgets have been previously presented in the likes of the Faceless Ones and the Evil of the Daleks, as this would have required a lot of very intricate and detailed sets and an enormous ensemble cast of characters. The remastering of the 2 surviving episodes is incredible, particularly for the Lion, with consideration of how the picture quality was like in the Lost in Time DVD set. There was one moment where I could tell where a particularly damaged section was because of what I can best describe as a very brief crackle in the picture, but other than this, the episode looks brand new, and to me is one that most definitely deserves this treatment. I would personally go on record here and say that this is one of the best existing episodes of 1960s Doctor Who, perhaps even getting a 10 out of 10 from me. Our TARDIS crew lands in the middle of a forest, and just so happens to be right where a Saracen ambush is occurring, with Barbara being captured along with a servant of King Richard, William de Preo. The Doctor, Ian and Vicky then help out to save another associate of the King and eventually meet the Lionheart himself. The first act of this episode is an incredible fight scene between the Knights of Royalty and the Saracens. The overall direction and choreography of how it is all filmed and executed is brilliant. We also get an initial glimpse of the incredible acting that is prevalent throughout the adventure, whether it be from the main regulars to Julian Glover as King Richard and Walter Randall as El Akir. After the initial epic opening of the story, it slows down a bit with the second quarter, the Night of Jaffa. Here more details and an overall idea of the plot is laid down and set out for the second half, with it showing us that this isn't going to be an action-packed story, instead of one of power and historical politics. This, I would say, is perhaps my least favourite part of the serial, but still has some strong highlights, such as Ian being knighted by King Richard. David Whitaker was the writer of this story, whom would later write some of the very best of the Patrick Troughton era, and from this early effort from him I can see how great of a writer he really was for the show. The dialogue throughout is absolutely magnificent and really helps to convey the seriousness of situations within the story and what powers characters such as El Akir can hold, like the line from the end of episode 3 being, "The only pleasure left for you is death, and death is very far away." And also this one from the Night of Jaffa, "Watering the land with a rain of blood." As for the reconstructions that are presented for this story, I would have said that they are really good and help to deliver these parts of the story very well. Whenever I heard that these would be photographic reconstructions, I was hoping for something like the Web of Fear episode 3 from back in 2013 and 2014. With that particular one, it used CGI and captions to help transcribe some of the events of the installment. However, with the Crusade 2 and 4, neither of these elements are present in the presentations. Now, I don't think that CGI for this historical was necessary, but there was one particular moment in which Barbara makes a run for it that I think could have perhaps used a line of text to describe what had just happened, as we are left just to assume what had happened. The Wheel of Fortune is a fantastic surviving episode as well. Here some outstanding character moments happen, whether it be Barbara being told how evil and powerful El Akir is, to fiery moments between King Richard and Joanna. Incredible performance by Jean Marsh for the latter here. Then the story closes with the Warlords, which is a great conclusion for the whole adventure. With some of the missing episodes, I would say that they work quite well on audio, with the stories themselves feeling like they could suit the radio format well, whether it be Fury from the Deep to even the Space Pirates. However, some don't, and the Crusade is one of them. The story is very reliant on its characters and writing to transcribe it to the viewers, and from the two surviving entries, this to me is quite apparent. Whereas the way of watching it with the reconstructions here is a good way of getting the story, I personally feel that it is nowhere near as strong as it could be if we had all of the episodes. Now, that may be a case of all of the Lost stories, in that we need to see the original visuals in order to get a full idea of how good the story was, or is in that case, but I think this is a particular example where reconstructions or even an animation can't do this story adequate justice. Either option can be good, but I think we are really missing a lot of this story's vicious power that is prevalent but unseeable at times throughout its 100 minutes. Because just by watching it in this way, we are only getting a glimpse at the amazing performances that are at the heart of what is a very well written adventure. As I said, this is a story not about action set pieces or some huge world-ending scale. It's more of a contained character drama about the historical politics and issues of medieval warfare, and I think that with the way the characters are done, this is one of the most exemplary instances of a Doctor Who story needing all of the episodes intact to truly see how brilliant it is. This is a very difficult one to rate, and it would be higher if the Night of Jaffa and the Warlords were intact, but as of now, and with how we can watch it, I'm going to be rating the Crusade an 8.5 out of 10.